Wow. Well, the fundraising campaign is over at last. 2 months. I had to take myself away for 2 months. I had to just disconnect from everything, the jewelry making, the jewelry design. The podcast, I still kept going with the podcast because I love doing this podcast. I don't know why. I know the one or two people out there listening to it, I hope you love it too. This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. Well, there's more than one or two people listening to it. But anyway, the campaign raised just short of $13,000 in 2 months to digitize this huge photo collection that's really important to Canadian music history. And the thing is, we did it from individual donations from just people who used to read the magazine I used to publish back in the 90s and early 2000s. So this was just from readers, from my friends. I had to reach out directly to them. This podcast is going to be about communicating to people about your work. And I learned a lot of stuff during the campaign because I learned how our new communication space, our new internet space works here in Canada and now around the world. A lot of you folks who live in different countries are starting to experience compression on the internet, where your posts are not getting, your Instagram posts are not getting views, nobody's responding to you. There's no interaction coming back from your social media posts, and this compression that's happening as the platforms change their business models, and everyone is going to just get washed away when they do this. Sorry, but that's the fact. I mean, you artists know this already. You're trying to promote your stuff on Instagram, and nobody's seeing it, right? And even when you're buying ads, and nobody's seeing it. So this is what I learned. The space, the internet space is changing, and it's going to mean that we as artists have to figure out ways to get around it, to work around it, and to connect with the people who need to see our art, or our customers, right? The people who need to buy our art, to have it in their homes, or to wear it on their belt, or to wear it on their finger, or whatever the art is and that we make. We need to get it to the customers, and the people who are in the way now are the platforms. So this show is going to be about exposure. I learned a lot during this fundraising campaign. I had no experience in fundraising, so I had to learn how to do that quickly, because there was only 2 months to do the task, right? So you're learning as you go, you're trying different things, you're seeing what works and what doesn't work. Now these platforms give you some tools, but just basic information on what you're going to have to do, like send emails, contact your friends, maybe buy some advertising to get your message of your campaign to the people who might make donations to it. So that's exposure. You need to give your campaign exposure. But as an artist, you need to give your work exposure. So this is the exposure show on the Cannabis Goldsmith. Now, what are you going to do? Like, you've all realized this now, right? That Instagram is not what it was, and it's definitely not a marketing tool anymore. And the reason why is that Facebook has decided that they're not going to show your posts to even your friends on Instagram or Facebook, any of these meta platforms. They're not going to, you make a post, and before it used to get circulated to the people who followed you. Now it doesn't. Now you have to pay for this to happen. You have to pay Meta to get your posts circulated to your friends. That is what's going on now. It's not just buying advertising to reach people who don't follow you. You have to buy advertising to reach people who do follow you. Now, this is what has changed. And this is why you're not getting any traffic. This is why no one's seeing your posts anymore, because Meta really doesn't give a fuck, right? They have a monopoly on this now, so they've got you all locked into their platform, and they're just squeezing. They are squeezing the dollars out. Now, for people who can afford it, great. Like I say, okay, these big AI companies or whatever, they can afford to pay Meta. They can afford to keep Mark Zuckerberg's cows in macadamia nuts forever, right? But starving artists or even well-fed artists can't. They can't keep Mark Zuckerberg in the lifestyle he is accustomed just to sell a painting or a pottery piece or whatever. So the platform is fucked now for any kind of marketing, basically. Well, no, the platform's still there for marketing, but you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay to connect with even your own followers. That's what it's become. It's pay to play. Now, what I learned over the course of this campaign is everything is pay to play. Any media now is pay to play. So, for example, I learned during the campaign, I was connecting and reaching out to national newspapers in Canada. They're art writers or whatever. There are no art writers anymore. They're all gone. They've all been laid off, and the major papers are hollow shells in Canada, and likely in your own country too, in the United States in particular. I know it's happening. So these other media, the magazines, all the entities that used to be able to spread the word about something, even if you didn't get on the cover of the magazine or you didn't get in a feature or whatever, you could at least maybe put a classified ad in the back to say, okay, art show at 25 Jones Street, for the month of August. Like, at least you could get the word out that way. Now, no. So anyway, I reached out to all these Canadian entities. I did get a response back from someone at the Globe and Mail, which was nice to receive. They never published anything that I want. They never did the story that I wanted them to do about this project about finding all these old images and digitizing them and bringing the Canadian rave scene and early Canadian house music scene and techno and jungle scenes back to life in these photographs. But this would have been an amazing story for them. I had photos and everything, but nothing came of it. And I think the reason why, it's their choice, right? And they would rather run something that's going to earn them revenue instead of doing a favor for an independent media organization, even if the story's better, right? So that's where they are. They're fucked. Their sources of revenue are drying up. See, because with them, they used to get the Canadian media and the U.S. media. They used to get most of their traffic, or a large part of it, most of it from Google, but maybe 30 or 40% of it would be referrals from Facebook. They're not getting any referrals from Facebook anymore. Zero. In Canada, we had an issue where our heritage ministry tried to squeeze the platforms for money, specifically Meta. And Meta said, no, we don't even have to be in Canada, so fuck you. And this is what they said to our heritage minister. And that's it. They'll leave. They'll leave the country if our government, tries to get them to do anything. This is how they think, right? And frankly, our government made so many horrible mistakes and destroyed Canadian journalism while they were trying to control Mark Zuckerberg. They just it's like an elephant a bull in the china shop is the perfect thing. They're in there fucking thrashing around, destroying everything. To make Canada better. This was their plan, I suppose. But anyway, it's fucked. it's fucked everybody in the world, because now Meta realizes that they don't have to listen to anybody. They don't have to listen to a government. Why should they listen to anybody? So now the platform, the nature of the platform has changed significantly, for us as people who are trying to connect to other people to show our art or our work or whatever. Now, the only people who are going to soon be able to have any reach, or the only people now that have any way to reach others on Facebook, is if they spend huge amounts of ad revenue. And I bought ads on Meta to promote my fundraising campaign, but I didn't have the budget to buy a lot of advertising. But none of it was effective. None of it was effective. I spent maybe $500 on ads, something like that. None of it was effective. The only results I got from my campaign was when I contacted people directly by email or by message and text message, and then they responded. And a full quarter of the people I contacted for a donation to my fundraiser responded. Now, the ads I bought on Meta, I was presented with some data they gave me that's absolutely meaningless. There's no meaning to it, right? Engagements and that kind of stuff, it's all their terminology, and they change it to mean whatever they like at any moment. But what I know from looking at ad delivery and stuff is that no, the ads I bought didn't work for me, even though I targeted the people, my own followers I was seeing my own ads, right? Like that, even that shouldn't happen in an ad buying platform of Facebook's or Meta's sophistication. Anyway, so I would suggest being careful when you with your ad spend on that platform. And you're not going to be able to get them to give you data. They're just any more than they give anyone else. It's all automated. So you just have to believe them if you want to. But this brings up the whole question of exposure. Now, what are we going to do for exposure, right? The platforms are closing down. Google has shifted the way they used to index the internet. So now there used to be some system basically where you could get your website in a Google index. You create a good page about something, and then you put it up on the internet, and Google would index it. And if somebody was searching for whatever, abstract paintings or a jewelry made from cannabis leaves and precious metal, and they would find your site. And now, not so much. Over the last decade, your link in Google kept going further and further down past, the 10th page or 12th page. Even though you were the domain authority in whatever field you were in, you were the site that should have been first. But, Google kept moving you further and further down. And nobody clicks past page 1. But now their whole indexing scheme has changed. So now they're presenting results and maybe not the links that the results were derived from. So it's, the exposure there, you're going to get less exposure on Google. You're going to have to pay for exposure on Google. You're going to have to pay for exposure for your art, your practice, your pottery studio or whatever. You're going to have to pay to get your message distributed on Facebook or Instagram. And this morning I got a message on my Facebook. Oh, it's like, if you're wondering why I still use Facebook, is that I'm an older guy, and the people who I need to reach are not teens, right? Or they're not 20-year-olds. The people who I need to reach for my for the fundraising thing, but also for my jewelry products are people that are older people, right? They're adults. So that's who I want to reach with my thing. I'm very clear that's who I want to reach, right? But this morning I got Facebook. Facebook sent me a message. Oh, so and so friend, my friend, this friend or that friend is on Threads. You should join Threads. No, I don't want to join Threads. Fuck that shit. It's just an extension of Mark Zuckerberg's macadamia eating, cow eating fucking nut factory, right? It's the same controls on the distribution of content. People are you're just trained monkeys producing content for Mark, right? No, thank you. I want to produce art. I'll put some pictures of it up on Instagram now and again, but I'm not going to devote my whole life to making content for Instagram. That is a huge, big, tragic mistake for anyone to make. Anyone. I mean, what do you want? People assume that there's some chance of virality. Like your post might be so good that it'll be picked up by the algorithm and circulated to 1 million people or whatever. Even TikTok's not like that anymore. So people are saying, I don't know, I'm not on that platform. But the people who know say, that platform has changed too. As they're ending, their existence in the United States is ending. They're starting to change. They're starting to throw everything at it to earn revenue through the platform. So to monetize it hard, right? So that platform has changed. But what do you do? All the platforms are fucked. The mainstream media is fucked. There's no more art magazines around. I had some success reaching out to community radio stations. Now, in North America anyway, there are college radio stations. Now, you might not think about college radio stations, but they reach people. They reach the people who are so pissed off with mainstream radio or just like people who just want to hear something different than the homogenized slop that's coming through, from the satellite radio or from the FM radio or whatever other kind of radio, or digital radio, community radio. Usually, in Toronto anyway, in our major market, it's like we have CIUT and we have people who do shows on that. There's the longest running jungle music show on the planet, right? And this is, jungle music you would think is a UK sort of invention, but no, we have serious junglists here in Canada, and there's a show called The Prophecy that's been on like 30 years. That's the longest running show, and it's on a community radio station. So if you make fashions for that scene, or if you make records for that scene, that is the show where you want to be reaching out to them to connect with them, because they'll give you exposure, right? Now there are other shows on these community radio stations. They tend to have it's the same mindset as a forum almost, where you have somebody who collects stamps and sets up an online forum for stamp collectors, and it's like a light that attracts all the other stamp collectors, and they all coalesce around this forum. And it's the same thing with the community radio stations in your town. There'll be a group of people who will coalesce around it. And then some people might listen to it accidentally. Or sometimes, you might hear of a DJ or something that you remember from your youth, and he might be on community radio, and you'll start to listen. And then that's a place to advertise. And generally the rates will be cheaper, or even free if you can get the people interested in what you're trying to do, and if it relates to what they do on the community radio station. So check out community radio for your stuff. The other thing to check out is look, if you have ideas, send me emails on how to reach people. And I'm not talking about you folks who want to sell me SEO services, because frankly, you guys are fucked too, because everything is changing. You have no idea what's going on either, right? With these platforms. So it's a colossal waste of money right now until everything settles down at the platforms like Google and Meta. But I mean, exposure, what are we going to do? I had my first, I thought, well, okay, I'm a member of a couple of trade organizations here in Canada. One of them has Craft Ontario has an actual store in downtown Toronto where their members can do exhibits, right? There's not a lot of room. It's a small space. So they invite people to submit exhibit proposals once a year or whatever. And, I don't know who decides, and then they're all very vague about it. So you put together a kind of pitch, and then you send it to them, and then they decide, right, and whether you're going to be in the shop for a month or whatever or not. So I applied. I thought, well, that would be nice, to get my cannabis jewelry and precious metals in the downtown Toronto exhibit in Craft Ontario, in my one of my trade association memberships. I mean, it would be an amazing show. I mean, it's unique. These are unique, one-of-a-kind pieces. We're the only jeweler in the world who does this. This would be our first show, too. So I thought it would be good. But, I mean, it's like you fill out the form and send it in, and then they decide. And yesterday I got a response back that, sorry, you didn't make the cut for this. And we actually received so many entries that we can't tell you why we didn't pick you. Now, okay, I'm cool with them not picking me, but I want to know why. I need some data. They need to give me data why they didn't pick me. It would be nice, right? And that way maybe I could decide to apply again or not. Or maybe change the way I think about applying. Or maybe apply differently next time. There's no way to know. It's just like, there's no control whatsoever in the process. So it occurs to me as like, why would I even apply again? Well, at least it didn't cost any money except for the annual membership fee. So it wasn't a big financial loss, but it was a time loss of putting this together. You had to submit photography and all that stuff. So it'd be nice if Craft Ontario could provide maybe a short paragraph as to why not, why a proposal was not didn't make the cut. That's all. I want to learn. And artists need to learn, and we need to know what works and what doesn't. Just some random person deciding that's not going to happen doesn't do anyone any good, I think. Anyway, that's just my opinion. So you can get exposure by submitting your work to these different open calls, right? And now some of these open calls cost money, and frankly, you have to pay a fee to apply. And most of them, as far as I can tell, are just ways for the gallery or the entity to make money. It's just a money-making scheme for most galleries. It adds to their bottom line. If they can, charge, $50 for an entry, and 1,000 people enter, that's $50,000, right? That goes to their bottom line. And they pick, 10 or whatever people. Like this is a source of revenue for these entities. So it had me thinking. It's like, what are artists to do? We've got middlemen trying to suck money out of us to perhaps to get some remote hope of having their paintings shown somewhere. Most artists are so concerned about their work, and they're so involved in the quality of their work and what it means and how hard it was to produce and all this stuff. And they can get mired. We can get mired in our own shit, right? And then when we apply to one of these things, we put our soul out there, and then when it's turned down, money can get just broken by something like that, right? But not me. I'm always looking for ways to make it better, make anything better. I'm a designer, right? So I want to make it better. And this whole process of applying to a thing for this, especially a trade association, a small trade association like Craft Ontario, it would be like, here's your show wasn't, your thing wasn't picked because this, and this. That's it. That's all. That's the data, right? That's the important data. But that whole scene seems to be, it's like, okay, there's like some star chamber that picks out, the art scene. There's some star chamber picks out whatever that happens in the gallery, and then there it is, and nobody knows why. It kind of came down from the heavens. This sort of happened, and suddenly there's an exhibit with this stuff in the place, right? It's all very mysterious. But the thing is, you must understand about these galleries, these exhibit spaces. They have the exact same problem you do. They're not getting exposure. They are not getting exposure. You see, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, they've shut off all their content distribution. So don't get broken-hearted about not being accepted in a gallery. Now, if you are accepted, you have to ask them, what are you going to do to promote the show? Because frankly, Instagram's not going to circulate any news about the show. What's your ad budget to promote this exhibit? That's what you should be asking them. Okay, if I submit my work to you to be in your space, how are you going to promote this show? How much money are you going to spend in advertising on Meta to promote this show that I'm in, that I'm spending $50 to get in or whatever, if I'm picked? Huh? How are you going to promote it? That's what artists should be asking these galleries and these entities and these middlemen, these art middlemen. What are you going to do? What are you going to do for me? Right? I'm the artist. Like, what are you going to do for me? The whole thing is the customer is the most important piece here. The artist and the customer. We just have to get all these middlemen out of the way so we can communicate with our customers directly. And, everyone thought that Instagram was a way to do this, but it's not, right? We have to find new ways to connect to people, to connect to our customers. Whether it's community radio stations, community fairs, God, I don't know what it'll be. I'm writing a column in a local magazine, a print magazine. And my publisher here she refuses to have a website for the publication. Now, she doesn't want it online at all. She would rather have it in print only. And to me, this is good. I think this is great. So I write a column every month in this local arts magazine in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario. The magazine's called Fish Wrapper. Pick it up if you're in the area. It's free, and you'll get it at a lot of places. Just check it out. So I'm reaching out through that. And there might be ways you could, if you're an artist, you could teach classes or something in a school or in a community center where you can get people interested in making art or understanding art or whatever. You can do stuff like that, and that might connect you to customers somehow. But then again, it might not, right? But at least you'll be connecting with people and explaining your art and what it means, and you'll learn how to communicate. The one thing I learned from the most important thing I think I learned from my fundraising campaign, which, although I didn't raise all the money, I raised a quarter of the money, which is astronomical these days. And one full quarter of the people I connected with by message responded with a donation. That's amazing, right? But you have to connect with the people. And if you connect with Mark Zuckerberg, you're not connecting with people. You're connecting with Mark Zuckerberg. And it's up to him whether he wants to pass your message on to your friends and your customers and people who need to see your work. So we have to figure out ways to just get around and get away from social media, from internet platforms in order to distribute images of our work or our content, our creative output, right? We are, as artists, we need to find ways around that are not online in order to do this, or that are online, but that are not controlled and manipulated by tech platforms. Anyway, that's it for exposure. If you have ideas, I want to hear them. I'm writing in a local magazine. I'm seriously considering setting up a digital gallery of some type in Canada that People can go and see Canadian art that isn't controlled by middlemen or whatever. But still, I mean, how would anyone find it, right? That's the problem. That we're back to square one again. Anyway, I'm sorry it wasn't a more positive Cannabis Goldsmith this week. But if think about how you're going to punch through or go around platforms to connect with your customers, to communicate about your art, because that's what we have to do as artists. Not only do we have to make the art, but we have to tell people about the art and show the art to people. That is so important. It's why we exist. What am I up to today? Well, yesterday I decompressed from the fundraising stuff. It's behind now. I'm just waiting for the money to clear, and then I'm going to start buying gear for the digitization of the photographic collection. But today I'm working on belt buckles. I'm back on the bench. I had put everything aside for 2 months. I sat down at the jeweler's bench and I was filing away at the belt buckle, and I saw some movement. There were like 5 tiny little spiders that had set up webs and homes and hunting grounds all around my jeweler's bench, like in the bench pin, this part of the jeweler's bench where all the work happens, this little focused thing sticking out of the bench that we do all our work on. There were little spiders. I mean, these are like a millimeter in diameter, but they were in the corners. They had set up their little thing. I guess a mother spider had given birth to them while I was fundraising, and they had set up their little hunting turfs all around. I was like, dudes, I didn't even see them. They were so small. But as soon as I started filing and the silver filings started flying off and hitting their webs, man, they were moving around. And like, what the fuck? I guess they were thinking, right? So I collected them all together in a cloth and I put them in another part of the workshop. It's like, okay, guys, this is not where you want to be. This is not a safe place to be for tiny little spiders. So I put them in another part of the studio, and hopefully they will eat other bugs that sometimes fly in here. That was my good deed for the day. Anyway, I'm going to go back and work on this belt buckle, and it's going to be freaking beautiful. Oh, I can just feel it now. It's made out of a one single indica leaf cast in sterling silver. It's like 6 inches long. It's huge. It's like giant. On a belt, it's going to look amazing. And getting close to finishing it off. It's going to be beautiful. Have a good week. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. You can see what we do at tribe.ca. Send us an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith.